In a quiet corporate building nestled on the outskirts of Denver, Colorado, people came and went, faces blending into routines. Among them was a man few truly noticed. The janitor, his name was Samuel, though most just called him Sam. He didn't correct them. He came in every evening, quietly pushing his cart down fluorescent-lit hallways, mopping, sweeping, emptying trash cans, always humming an old jazz tune. No one really knew where he came from. To them, he was just ... there. Background noise. Just the janitor. A familiar silhouette that meant the lights had dimmed, the day was done, and someone else would take care of the mess. But what no one knew, what no one even thought to imagine, was that Sam had a past, one stitched together with secrets. Secrets so deep, they would eventually knock on that same glass door in the form of federal agents. But long before that day came, Sam had already begun to rewrite his place in that building's story. He was always punctual. Rain, snow, even when a blizzard shut down half the city. Sam still showed up at exactly 6:01 p.m. That detail wasn't lost on Julia, a junior analyst who often stayed late to impress her bosses. Over time, she began noticing the way Sam operated, precise, methodical. He never lingered, never wasted movement. Once, she watched him fix a malfunctioning vending machine in under 2 minutes, muttering something in a language she didn't recognize. Another time, when an intern spilled coffee into a server rack, Sam somehow managed to shut the power down before any damage occurred, faster than IT could even react. That janitor's got reflexes, one tech guy had joked. But Julia felt something else. It wasn't just speed, it was control, command, like someone who had been trained for something far beyond mops and brooms. Still, she kept it to herself. After all, who questions a janitor? It wasn't worth the raised eyebrows. At least, not yet. Then came the day the alarms went off. Not fire alarms, something else. A false code red, likely triggered by a system glitch. The building entered lockdown. Chaos erupted. People scrambled, uncertain whether to evacuate or hide. But not Sam. Sam moved calmly through the panic, guiding employees toward exits, rerouting people away from blocked stairwells, and even helping one woman with a broken ankle down 4 flights of stairs. When it was all over, security footage revealed something that raised a few internal eyebrows. Sam had moved through the building as if he already knew the layout by heart, every stairwell, every emergency override panel, even restricted access doors. That evening, while most employees were still shaken, Sam stayed an extra hour to clean up the mess. As always, no complaints, no explanations, simply returned to his cart and vanished into the night. But Julia couldn't ignore the feeling anymore. Who was this man really? Curiosity gnawed at her. Over the next few weeks, Julia quietly observed. She tried small talk, but Sam always deflected politely. He wasn't cold, just ... guarded. So, she dug, looked up his employee file. It was almost blank. No prior references. No listed address. Hired through a third-party janitorial agency that no longer existed. The more she searched, the less she found. Even his last name, Kamanzi, turned up nothing in basic databases. One night, as she walked past him, she noticed something she hadn't before. A faint scar running from the base of his left ear down to his collarbone, partially hidden by his uniform. It looked surgical or military. That was the night she decided to do something she hadn't before: follow him. From a distance, of course. She watched as he exited through the back of the building and didn't take the bus like usual. Instead, a black SUV pulled up, and without hesitation, Sam got in. No words exchanged. The car vanished into the night. Julia didn't sleep that night. The next morning, she debated whether she had gone too far. Maybe it was nothing. Maybe Sam just had a life outside of work, like anyone else. But she couldn't shake it. That week, she began noticing other things. Two men in suits loitering near the lobby, strange uptick in security briefings, whispered conversations between higher-ups. And then, on a seemingly ordinary Wednesday afternoon, it happened. The glass doors opened and three men walked in, crisp suits, tight expressions, and badges. Not the local police, not even state. Agents, FBI. They walked past reception, ignoring everyone, and asked a single question. "Where's Samuel Kamanzi?" The room fell silent. Someone finally whispered, "You mean the janitor?" The agents didn't blink. "Yes," one replied, "the janitor." Suddenly, everyone's eyes turned to the man they had never really seen. The man with the mop, the silence, and the secrets. And that was just the beginning. As pergantes comicaram immediatoma ipusa visita dos agentes. A impresa aligu collaboraco.com. Investigaxis fedora e imitu comunicado. Vego sningwam falava de outra coisa. What did the janitor do? Was he a criminal? Was he a spy? Rumors spread like wildfire. Some thought it was identity fraud. Others whispered about espionage. Julia, however, wasn't just speculating. She was digging. The name Samuel Kamanzi had no presence in social media. No school records, no tax history prior to 5 years ago. He appeared out of nowhere. She knew there was more, and this time, she wasn't the only one watching. After the FBI left, Sam didn't return to work. His locker was emptied, his name erased from the employee database, as if he'd never been there. But Julia wasn't buying it. She still had the footage from the day of the false alarm. She watched it again and again, his eyes, his posture, his awareness. That wasn't a janitor. That was someone trained. For something much bigger, she decided to go to the place where the SUV had taken Sam that night. It wasn't hard to trace. Security cameras near the parking lot had picked up the plate. Her contact in IT owed her a favor. She followed the lead to a quiet residential area on the edge of town. There, the trail went cold. No sign of Sam. Just an abandoned warehouse, windows blacked out. No markings, no address. She circled the building in her car twice. It felt ... wrong. Too quiet, too clean. She didn't get out. Instead, she made a note and drove off. That night, an envelope appeared under her apartment door. No return address. Inside, a flash drive. No message. No explanation. She hesitated before plugging it in. Her curiosity, or maybe her fear. One, the contents were simple. A folder with 5 video files labeled only by dates. She opened. The first one, what she saw changed everything. The footage was old, slightly grainy, clearly from a helmet cam. It showed a desert, harsh sunlight, wind kicking up sand. A small team of armed men moved silently through ruins. One of them, face partially turned, looked unmistakably like Sam, only younger, cleaner shaven, and wearing military gear. Julia's pulse quickened. She played the second file. This one showed a room. Concrete walls, a man tied to a chair, blood on the floor. The younger Sam interrogated him in a language she didn't recognize. Calm, commanding, precise. The man eventually cracked, muttering something. Sam stepped back. Then the camera turned to a whiteboard where coordinates were written in red. Marker, CIA. This wasn't a janitor. This was Black Ops. But why was she seeing this? Why now? The third file offered a chilling answer. It was a classified operation briefing. Voice distorted, names redacted. But one line stood out. Agent Kamanzi is the only asset with field clearance in Sector 9. If compromised, disavowal protocol applies immediately. Julia sat frozen. The fourth file showed a compound going up in flames. Gunfire, screams. Sam Agent Kamanzi dragging someone through smoke. The fifth file was different. It was a close-up, speaking directly into the camera. If you're seeing this, it means I've been exposed. You were right to dig, Julia, but now they'll come for you too. Trust no one, especially not them. The screen went black. Her blood ran cold. How did he know she'd find this? Was she being watched? Her phone rang. Unknown number. She didn't answer. Then it rang again. She shut it off. That night, she slept with a chair against the door. And the next morning, the SUV was parked outside her apartment building. Again, Julia didn't go to work. She packed a bag and drove out of town. She stopped at a roadside diner 3 counties away, connected to a secure network, and began piecing together everything she had. She needed help, and she knew just who to call. Her uncle had worked in intelligence years ago, retired now, but still sharp. She told him part of the story, not everything, just enough. He listened quietly, then asked her one question. You said his name was Kamanzi. When she confirmed, there was a pause. Then he said, that name's not supposed to exist anymore. He told her about a program that had been shut down a decade ago unofficially. A group of operatives used for missions too sensitive for even the CIA to acknowledge. They were ghosts. No identities, no families, no records. If Kamanzi was one of them, then someone had made a mistake letting him live a civilian life. But why was he working as a janitor? That's what Julia still couldn't understand. Her uncle had a theory, hiding in plain sight. If he ran, someone high up wanted him dead. But if he stayed visible, useful, helpful, he might have had protection, until now. Julia asked what she should do. His answer was short. Disappear. But she didn't. She returned to Denver that night. Her apartment had been broken into. Nothing stolen, but everything moved. A message. She had crossed a line, and now she knew too much. The next day, she received another flash drive. No envelope this time. Just the drive left on the windshield of her car. The footage was recent. Sam walking in a dark alley, followed by men in suits. He turned, and just before the video cut out, Julia heard his voice again. Tell her I'm not running anymore. It was clear now. Sam had made a choice. He was no longer hiding. But from whom? The FBI, the agency that trained him, or something deeper, a faction operating in the shadows, controlling lives from behind conference room walls. Julia began connecting dots. The company where Sam worked wasn't just a tech firm. It had government contracts, defense systems, surveillance tech. What if Sam hadn't chosen that janitorial job by accident? What if he was there for a reason? She accessed archived employee logs and noticed something strange. Sam had requested cleaning schedules that aligned with executive meeting times. He was always present when key decisions were made. Not inside the room, but near enough. Was he gathering intel, protecting someone, or waiting? Her questions led her back to the warehouse she had seen weeks ago. This time, she brought a camera and backup battery. Inside, it was completely abandoned at first glance. But behind a wall panel, she found a small room. Surveillance monitors, audio feeds, hard drives. All disconnected, and in the center, a box with her name on it. Inside, a notebook. Sam's handwriting. Pages and pages of names, dates, coordinates, warnings. It wasn't just about him. It was about a network, something global. A war no one was talking about. Sam wasn't running. He was preparing. And he had left her the blueprint. Her hands trembled as she flipped to the last page. One sentence written in bold. They know you know. At this point, Julia had a choice: vanish and protect herself, or finish what Sam started. She chose the latter. She leaked fragments of the files anonymously, just enough to spark whispers online. She encrypted and distributed the rest through dead-drop networks. And then she waited. Days passed. Nothing. Then a letter arrived, hand-delivered, unmarked. Inside, a plane ticket. One way, destination: Kigali, Rwanda. The birthplace of Samuel Kamanzi. On instinct, she boarded. No questions. When she arrived, a man greeted her at the airport. No words, just a nod. He drove her through winding roads, into a rural valley, until they reached a modest house tucked into the hillside. And there he was. Older eyes, sharper, scar more visible than ever. Sam, alive. "I told you they'd come," he said quietly. "But you were braver than I expected." Julia was flooded with emotion, confusion, relief, anger. "Why me?" she asked. He smiled. "Because I knew you'd listen." And because they stopped listening long ago. Sam explained everything. His mission wasn't betrayal, it was protection. He had discovered internal corruption, weapons being sold to groups under the radar, entire governments compromised. When he refused to obey, he was labeled a liability, disavowed. But he had survived, hidden, and waited. And now, with Julia's help, the truth had a voice. As the sun set over the hills of Rwanda, she realized one thing: the janitor wasn't just a ghost from the past, he was the beginning of a reckoning. And the world had no idea what was coming next. The house in Rwanda was quiet, surrounded by forest, distant from the chaos Sam and Julia had left behind. But inside, it was alive with stories, maps pinned to walls, newspaper clippings, names underlined in red. Sam was no longer hiding. He had been preparing for a long time. Julia listened for hours as he unfolded the layers. The corruption, he discovered, wasn't limited to one agency. It stretched across borders, private defense firms funneling weapons to militias, classified technologies sold to the highest bidder, and a list of officials complicit in the cover-up. "They called us janitors in the field," Sam said bitterly. "Cleaners of messes no one wanted to admit existed." But this time, he wasn't cleaning for them. He was exposing them. Julia asked what the plan was. Sam handed her a file, the final one. It contained data so sensitive that even possession of it could mean life imprisonment. A list of names: CEOs, elected officials, operatives, and dates tied to covert operations that had ended in accidents or terrorist events that now made sense in hindsight. He explained that an encrypted drop was scheduled in 6 days, coordinated with journalists, activists, and whistleblowers. But there was a problem. Someone had discovered the plan. A former ally, now turned. "They won't wait 6 days." Sam said, "They'll come here before that." Julia felt the air shift. The mission wasn't just about leaking files anymore. It was about surviving long enough to do it. And neither of them was naive enough to think they'd get through it untouched. That night, they set up defenses, not weapons, but signals, traps, surveillance countermeasures. If Sam was right, they had hours, not days. Julia asked him something that had been haunting her. Why had he chosen a janitor's life? Sam looked out the window, then answered softly, "Because it was honest. I had power once. I saw what it did. But when I pushed a broom, I was invisible. Not because people disrespected me, but because I wasn't a threat. I could observe. Think, heal." He paused, and maybe wait for the right person to notice. Julia was quiet for all the chaos that had followed. There was still something deeply human about Sam, a man who had carried darkness and was trying in his own way to put down the weight. At 3:12 a.m., the first sign came: a drone overhead. Silent, but not to Sam. He disabled it before it could scan the area. Then, headlights. 3 vehicles, unmarked, armed men. Julia gripped the drive in her pocket. Sam turned to her. "No. Matter what happens, you get that file out. Even if it means leaving me." She tried to argue, but his eyes stopped her. The moment arrived quickly. A knock. Then a demand through a megaphone. "Samuel Kamanzi, step out. This is your last warning." He didn't move. Instead, he handed Julia a key to a tunnel. "Below the house, go." She hesitated only a second, then ran. Behind her, gunfire erupted. The tunnel led deep beneath the forest, twisting through stone and earth until it emerged near a river. Julia didn't look back. She got into the small boat Sam had hidden there, started the motor, and vanished into the early dawn. Hours later, she reached a village and used a satellite phone Sam had given her, pre-programmed to contact one man, Adrian Bishop, a former intelligence analyst turned whistleblower, now working with independent media. She gave him the location of the drop. He told her to keep moving, change appearance, and wait for confirmation. "You're not safe yet," he said. "They'll think they stopped it. Let them." Then he added something that froze her blood. "We intercepted chatter. The house was burned. No survivors reported." Julia didn't cry. Not yet. She just stared at the river, the mountains, the rising sun. Sam had known this would happen. He had made peace with it. But she hadn't. Still, she kept going. A week passed, then 2. She lived under different names, moved every day, and waited. Until one night, at a crowded train station in Uganda, she saw it, a screen showing breaking news. Leaked files shake global intelligence community. Names were scrolling across the bottom. Headlines screaming in bold. Private security firms linked to international war crimes. Senators implicated in black market tech sales. Former U.S. operative blamed for mass exposure. Sam's face appeared, and beneath it, one word: whistleblower. The world reacted fast: arrests, resignations, televised denials. Some called Sam a traitor, others called him a hero. But Julia knew the truth was more complicated. He had been both protector and executioner. A man shaped by violence, now using truth as his final weapon. And in the chaos of global fallout, one fact became clear. Someone had passed the files. Someone had been brave enough to finish what Sam started. The authorities searched, but Julia stayed ahead of them. She moved through countries like smoke, unseen, unheard, but always watching. Her mission wasn't over. She had Sam's notebook. More names, more operations, more lies to dismantle. She wouldn't stop. Not yet. Then, one morning in a dusty village cafe, a boy handed her a folded note. No stamp, no address. It read simply, "The janitor's job is never really done." Her hands shook. It was impossible. Sam was dead. She had seen the fire. She had heard the report. But something inside her knew. If anyone could vanish, truly vanish, it was him. She asked the boy who gave it to him. He only shrugged. No answer. Julia smiled faintly. Whether it was real or a ghost, the message was clear. The mission was still alive. And the next target was already in her sights. Months passed. Then a year. Julia became a myth, a ghost in the data stream. Hackers passed her messages encrypted in memes. Journalists quoted her anonymously. Whistleblower groups idolized her. She had become what Sam once was, invisible but powerful. A new janitor, cleaning not buildings, but truths buried beneath years of silence and deception, and the people. They had begun to question everything. For every name exposed, trust eroded. Governments scrambled to rebuild. Corporations rewrote protocols. But the damage was done. The illusion was shattered. All because of one man who mopped floors at night, and once led operations in the shadows. In the final pages of Sam's notebook, Julia found something he had never told her, a list of children's names. Not targets, not assets, but survivors. Young refugees he had helped relocate during his missions. He had kept track of them all, their locations, their education, their dreams. That was the legacy he had protected, quietly, without recognition. And now it was hers to continue. She closed the notebook, stood on the rooftop of an old safe house, and looked out over the city below. Somewhere in those streets, another secret was waiting, another lie ready to be exposed, and she would find it. Because she wasn't just anything, not anymore. Neither was he. He had been called just the janitor. But the world would never forget his name again. If this story moved you, don't let it stop here. Share it. Like it. Comment below. Tell us what you would have done in Julia's place, and if you believe that even the most invisible among us can change the world. Subscribe, because this channel tells the stories no one else dares to.